Welcome to Technologic with Mike and Terry. I'm Mike, this is Terry, and the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference happened recently. Now, this year was a virtual conference. Normally, they all get together, and this year they couldn't do that because of COVID-19. So they had a virtual conference, but nonetheless, some big announcements came out of this.
Yes.
There's some major things happening with Apple, and you're going to tell us about a few of those things.
Right. Well, we'll first talk about the software side.
Okay.
So they always, at the Worldwide Developers Conference, because that's really the worldwide developers, they're software developers, and so there's always a software component to it. And so this year is no different. And so obviously the different platforms that Apple has, we have the iOS, which is really for the iPhone, and then we have the iPad OS, which is for iPad. It used to be the same thing. But then Apple TV, it has an OS of its own, and our watch has an OS. And so they've announced new products or new software versions for those. And so to start with, it's going to be iOS 14 and iPad OS 14. And so we will see new features in that. Now, iOS 14, obviously for the phone in that case, one of the big things is that we're going to see a reorganization of all of the apps. So there's going to be a better way to organize your apps. So I may or may not have close to 400 apps on my phone, and they're just page after page after page. And I just haven't taken the time to reorganize them and group them together into folders and that kind of thing. Well, the new iOS 14 and iPad OS 14 will help us get those things under control.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking forward to that for sure. But that's just a one of many, many features. You're going to see pretty much a re-engineering of the interface a little bit.
Wow.
It'll still be familiar, and that's Apple's thing for years, is that each iteration of the operating system always looks comfortably familiar, but then they add new features. And so that's really, I'm looking forward to that as always. So now the Apple TV OS will be updated as well. And so with Apple TV OS, again, we're just going to see a revamp of a lot of things. And, we've talked about before with connected TV, I'm sure there's going to be some newer features there as well.
Yes.
Now, then watchOS. Now, this is going to be watchOS 7 in this case.
Yeah.
And so with watchOS 7, they have added, get this, a feature to help you make sure you wash your hands for the proper amount of time and to remind you to wash your hands. So
there's going to be an app to instruct you on how to wash your hands and how long to wash your hands.
Yes, it's going to help you out a little bit. I mean, I just hope it's not on by default, but we'll see. So, I mean, I wash my hands, but I probably don't do it the 20 seconds that they want you to all the time. So I think a combination of washing my hands and using some sanitizer usually is sufficient.
You would hope so. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so that's going to be there. And there's also going to be a new sleep tracking feature there.
Oh, okay.
So you can, up to this point, they really hadn't had that there for you, but now they're going to add that. And it will dim the light on it, so it'll last longer and everything. Of course, remind you to connect it back up for charging and that kind of stuff, because you're going to be wearing it all night. And so if that's something that's important to you to kind of know how you're sleeping, then this will offer that feature.
Okay, cool.
So other than that, here's the really big part, is that Apple is making a huge transition to new chips.
Yes. Okay. I heard about this. So they're going to start making their own chips.
Right. For the Mac.
Device. Okay.
For the Mac, they are moving everything. They've already been making their chips for the iPad and the iPhone and the Apple TV. Those are Apple-designed chips. They've been using Intel chips, of course, in the Macs for a lot of years. Now, they've used several. They used to use a 68,000 Motorola chip, and then they moved to an IBM Motorola and Apple-designed chip called the PowerPC. And then they moved to Intel back in 2006. And now, in 2020, we're going to move away from Intel and move to the chips, or a family of chips that are related to the iPhone and iPad.
Gotcha.
They're now going to be put into the Mac. And so the reason for that is that Apple has been able to get more performance for the money and for the watt. Actually, it's performance per watt or something like that. That basically, because power is a big deal. Because our batteries don't last long enough. They just don't. We don't want them to last for a month. I mean, but our batteries in our iPhones last a long time comparatively to the rest of the industry. in part because Apple has more efficient chips. And so they're going to move those chips into the Mac. And we'll benefit from that power-wise, but they're also more, actually higher performance. They actually do more.
Wow.
And they're more powerful than the Intel chips. And so we are looking forward to that now. It's a big, big transition.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a major thing. They've got all the software features to convert your current apps that run under Intel chips. They're going to be converted over in real time if they're older apps. They'll be converted through a feature called Rosetta 2, because they had Rosetta before. And ask me about that later. But basically, there's going to be a translator in there so that we don't lose access to our old apps. So when you buy a new Mac with one of the H series chips, Apple chips, then we are not going to lose access to our old software. We'll still be able to run our older one until the developers get everything converted over. So it'll be a big, big deal. And along with that, of course, is going to come out with a new Mac OS. It's Mac OS 11. So they've been on 10 point whatever since 2001 when the first version of Mac OS came out. And now all these, Mac OS 10 actually, the Roman numeral 10 eventually just got turned into just 1010. And now with the A series chips, we're going to Mac OS 11. So with all the changes with the hardware, they're figuring, hey, that's a good time to switch it all over. So
gotcha.
So that there's a whole much to come. I mean, there's really some really cool stuff out there. So and if you want to go to our blog, if you go to MacTech Solutions, MacTech-Solutions.com, and if you either type in /blog or just click on the blog link at the top, you're going to see a lot of the articles and stuff that we post on a regular basis. We get those on Facebook. We post them there, but they're also linked to our website. So you can go look up, I've got some articles out there right now about the A-series chips and what they'll do for us and some other stuff. So just go check it out. And of course, Facebook, you can see us. And then, of course, you have Facebook for your business.
Facebook for my business, Hendra Media Solutions. You can get me at hendramedia.com, and be sure to look at MacTech-Solutions.com for more information about everything we've talked about today, the blogs, and a lot more, because there is a lot more to learn. And be sure to share this video if you would, please. More technologic is coming your way real soon.